No way!
Japan!
You've seen the viral videos? Thousands of people crossing in what looks like pure, unadulterated chaos. But what if I told you that what you're watching isn't chaos at all? What if, hidden beneath the sensory overload of Shibuya Crossing, there's something far more elegant? A perfectly choreographed dance that happens thousands of times a day, in complete silence with almost zero collisions? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of Tokyo's greatest urban mysteries. And by the end of this video, you'll never see this intersection the same way again. So stick around as we decode the hidden order, the cultural genius, and yes, even the whispers of urban legend behind Tokyo's most iconic Scramble Crossing. Let's go. Section 1, the Grand Illusion. Picture this. It's 3:55 p.m. on a Tuesday in central Tokyo. Millions of people have already crossed Shibuya Crossing today. But in a matter of minutes, something remarkable is about to happen. When that traffic light turns red, up to 3,000 people, and we're talking about 3,000 individuals with different destinations, different backgrounds, and different reasons for being here, will simultaneously flood an intersection about as wide as an American football field, moving in 4 different directions at once. From the street below, it looks like absolute bedlam. Random, chaotic, unpredictable. But here's the kicker, according to research teams from the University of Tokyo and international traffic engineers, this chaos is actually one of the most efficiently orchestrated pedestrian flows on the planet. And what's more fascinating? It happens almost entirely without rules, without shouting, without conflict. Just silent, seamless synchronicity. Before we understand the order, let's acknowledge what we actually see. Shibuya Crossing has been featured in dozens of Hollywood films. Lost in Translation, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, Resident Evil, Afterlife. All because of one reason: it looks overwhelming. The crossing is surrounded by towering buildings, massive LED screens flashing advertisements, traffic signals changing rapidly, and waves of humanity, moving in seemingly every direction at once. Media outlets have compared it to Times Square in New York City, Piccadilly Circus in London. It's a visual spectacle, and for good reason. On peak days, we're talking about 390,000 people crossing this intersection. On the absolute busiest days, some estimates suggest up to 500,000 pedestrians pass through. International visitors' first reaction is always the same. How is this not a disaster? And that's exactly the question we're going to answer. Because the real story isn't about the chaos. It's about the invisible order hidden within it. Section 2, the Unseen Orchestra. Let's start with the mechanics. When engineers designed the Shibuya Scramble Crossing in 1973, yes, that's less than 60 years ago, they introduced something that was revolutionary at the time: the all-pedestrian or scramble phase. Here's how it works. The traffic light operates in a specific cycle. For approximately 2 minutes, vehicles have the green light, coming from each direction, and pedestrians wait. Then, something happens that makes this crossing unique. All vehicle lights turn red simultaneously. At that moment, and here's where the magic happens, pedestrians from all 4 directions receive their green light at the same time. For about 30 seconds, the entire intersection becomes a pedestrian-only zone. Every 2 minutes, up to 3,000 people cross. That's roughly 1,500 people crossing in each direction. Now think about this logistically. How do 3,000 people navigate through the same space without running into each other? Without stopping? Without creating bottlenecks? This is where observers and researchers have noticed something truly remarkable. There are no explicit rules at Shibuya Crossing. No stay to the left. No single file. No painted lanes telling people where to walk. Yet, a sophisticated system of what we might call silent communication takes over. A recent study from Tokyo University, using advanced computer modeling and actual pedestrian trajectory, data discovered that crossing the scramble works on 4 invisible principles. First, anticipation. Pedestrians begin adjusting their pace and direction even before they fully enter the crossing, based on subtle visual cues. The density of people in adjacent areas, the angle of body movements, even the mere presence of other people nearby. Second, body language. Japanese pedestrians have cultivated an almost balletic awareness of personal space, not in the sense of needing distance, but in terms of synchronized movement. Eye contact is often avoided, which might seem cold, but it actually allows for smoother flow. People read body angles, shoulder positions, walking speed. It's a form of nonverbal communication that's been refined over generations. But here's something researchers and locals have both noticed, and it's perhaps the strangest aspect of all. As people move through the crossing, avoiding contact through micro-adjustments of their paths, something curious emerges. The crowd seems to flow around invisible obstacles. Not physical objects, but spaces, gaps in the human flow, where people naturally avoid stepping. Some refer to this phenomenon as the spectral silhouettes of the crossing. Are people sensing something beyond ordinary perception? Or is the collective awareness so synchronized that it creates impressions of presence? Even where nothing physical exists, the Shibuya Scramble Ghost, if it exists, might not appear as something to be seen, but as something to be avoided. A cold spot in the human flow, a space where footsteps don't quite land. Third, adaptive routing. Pedestrians in dense flows naturally self-organize into subtle lanes, not marked ones, but organic pathways that emerge from the collective behavior. When one lane gets too dense, people unconsciously shift slightly to less crowded routes. Fourth, collective awareness. Perhaps the most fascinating element. Each pedestrian is subconsciously aware of the pulse of the crowd. If movement is slowing, they adjust. If density increases, they compress their stride. It's almost as if the 3,000 individuals are operating as a single organism with distributed intelligence. Now, here's where things get interesting, and perhaps a little unsettling. Locals have long noticed something peculiar about Shibuya Crossing. In the midst of thousands of people moving simultaneously, there's an almost eerie silence. No honking, no shouting, just the soft percussion of 3,000 footsteps, the occasional hum of traffic signals, and the ambient sounds of Tokyo's perpetual hum. This silence has inspired a certain mystique. Shibuya has become the subject of numerous urban legends. Some speak of the Shibuya Scramble Ghost, a figure said to appear in the crossing only during the most perfectly timed moments, visible only to those paying the closest attention. Others mention the Shadow Lurker, a presence said to walk against the crowd, invisible to ordinary sight. Whether you believe in such things or not, there's something undeniably eerie about witnessing thousands of people moving as one. It speaks to something deeper in our collective consciousness, the blending of the individual into the group, the surrender to a rhythm larger than ourselves. Section 3, the cultural choreography. To truly understand Shibuya Crossing, we need to understand a single Japanese concept, wakak, often translated as harmony, but it means something much deeper. It's not just getting along. It's the subordination of individual desires to the well-being of the collective. It's been woven into Japanese society for centuries. During Japan's island isolation as a feudal nation, where survival depended on tight-knit, communities living in close quarters with limited resources, what became essential. You couldn't be loud. You couldn't be selfish. You couldn't create conflict. And that value hasn't disappeared. It's just evolved. Watch how Japanese people behave on crowded trains. Conversations are whispered or absent entirely. People avoid eye contact not out of rudeness, but out of respect. A way of saying, I see you exist, but I respect your personal space, even in this crowd. They take up minimal space. They move with purpose, but without aggression. This reading of the air, what's called kuki, oyomu, is a core cultural competency taught from childhood. You observe subtle cues in your environment and adjust your behavior accordingly. Everyone is doing this simultaneously. It creates what might be called a cultural operating system that makes something like Shibuya Crossing possible. But here's something fascinating. This same cultural practice of reading invisible cues may explain why Japanese urban legends often center on sensing rather than seeing. If a society has trained itself to perceive what isn't explicitly visible, to navigate spaces based on intuitive awareness of collective intention, then the border between normal perception and paranormal sensing becomes blurred. Perhaps what Western observers would dismiss as supernatural at Shibuya Crossing, Japanese participants recognize as simply an extreme expression of something they practice every day. The awareness of presences and intentions that exist beyond ordinary sight. At Shibuya Crossing, you see wa in its purest form. The scramble works not because of enforcement or rules, but because millions of people have internalized the value that the smooth flow of the collective is more important than asserting individual momentum. When someone needs to squeeze past, a simple glance, A subtle angle shift, a momentary pause, these suffice. Conflict is avoided not through confrontation, but through anticipation of what the other person might need. This is why engineers and urban planners from around the world come to study Shibuya Crossing. It's not a problem solved through infrastructure or regulation. It's a problem solved through culture. International observers often comment on how almost meditative crossing Shibuya feels, despite the thousands of people. One architecture professor based in Tokyo described it as a great example of what Tokyo does best when it doesn't try. It's not trying to be orderly. It simply is because the culture makes it inevitable. Section 4, Beyond the Rush. Shibuya Crossing isn't just culturally significant, it's economically extraordinary. The district surrounding it is one of Tokyo's most valuable real estate zones. Why? Because the crossing generates a constant, predictable flow of millions of people daily for businesses, restaurants, fashion boutiques, electronics stores, entertainment venues. This is liquid gold. The Starbucks overlooking Shibuya Crossing is among the world's busiest Starbucks locations. Shops in the surrounding area report foot traffic that simply cannot be replicated anywhere else in Tokyo. Property values in the immediate vicinity have skyrocketed. This isn't accidental, it's the cumulative effect of being positioned at one of humanity's greatest gathering points. Shibuya District attracts tourists from around the world, specifically to experience the crossing. Tourism organizations have capitalized on this, offering guided tours, photo packages, and experiences centered on the scramble. The district has become synonymous with cutting-edge Japanese culture, fashion, and urban modernity. It's a gateway to Tokyo's identity. The crossing itself is relatively young, only established in 1973, but the area around it has centuries of history. Shibuya evolved from a quiet region during Japan's Edo period into a major commercial center during the Showa era. The Scramble Crossing was introduced to solve a specific problem: efficient pedestrian flow at an increasingly congested intersection. What its designers couldn't have anticipated was that it would become iconic, that it would appear in dozens of films, that it would become a symbol of modern Japan itself. Today, Shibuya is undergoing what developers call a once-in-a-century redevelopment. Massive new structures are rising. Shibuya Scramble Square, Shibuya Hikarie, new commercial and office complexes. By 2030, a pedestrian network called the Skyway will connect major buildings with elevated walkways, further improving flow and creating new gathering spaces. This redevelopment isn't destroying Shibuya's essence, it's evolving it. The crossing will remain, but it will be integrated into a more sophisticated urban environment. The pedestrian experience is being prioritized in ways that might reshape not just Shibuya, but how cities think about public space globally. But as Shibuya transforms, something else lingers in the collective memory of the district. Local taxi drivers speak in hushed tones about the vanishing commuters, the tourists and residents, who have entered the scramble at peak times and simply disappeared from their intended destinations. Some find themselves blocks away from where they started, with hours unaccounted for. Others never reach their destination. It's easy to dismiss as coincidence, as the disorientation of being swept up in a crowd. But the frequency of such stories, the consistency of the reports, suggests something more. As Shibuya grows and changes, will these disappearances increase? Or will the new construction somehow resolve them? And what might the construction workers unearth as they dig deeper into Shibuya's soil? Soil that has witnessed centuries of human passage? Section 5, The Mystery Beneath. Now, let's talk about something that locals know, but tourists rarely discuss. Shibuya has a shadow side. The district itself sits in a valley. The name Shibuya literally refers to the geographical feature of a valley with a river. During the Edo period, a river flowed through here. During World War II, nearby parks were used as air raid shelters, where many people died. Some local traditions speak of underground waterways, literally streams of water hidden beneath the pavement, that can collect what some call spiritual residue. Whether you believe in such things or not, there are persistent urban legends tied to Shibuya Crossing itself. The most famous local legend speaks of the Shibuya Scramble Ghost, a small child spirit said to wander the crossing. Multiple witnesses have reported seeing a young child attempting to cross, even when the light is red or moving against traffic. Some say they've seen people's reactions to something invisible. Sudden stops, unexpected movements, expressions of confusion. Others claim that those who've spotted the ghost report, feeling inexplicable chills or a sense of profound unease. Some longtime residents speak of the shadow lurker, a figure said to walk deliberately against the flow of the crowd, moving contrary to the natural current. But here's what makes this legend distinct. No one actively avoids this person. They don't see them coming and move aside. Instead, the crowd unconsciously adjusts, creating a path where none should exist, all without appearing to notice the figure passing through. It's as if the crowd's collective awareness recognizes something that individual eyes cannot. Those who claim to have spotted the shadow lurker report, feeling inexplicably unsettled afterward. Not frightened, but deeply aware of moving through a space with unknowable presences. Then there's the phenomenon locals call the phantom crossroads. During moments of absolute maximum density, those rare moments when the crossing is so crowded, that individual agency almost disappears. Some witnesses report a profound disorientation. People describe walking in one direction, but arriving at a completely unexpected location. They speak of brief moments where the geometry of the crossing seems to shift, where passages appear that shouldn't exist according to the physical layout. Some theorize these are moments where the boundary between the visible city and something else becomes thin, where the paths of the living briefly overlap with something from another layer of reality. Then there's the legend of the Vanishing Commuter. Stories passed down through local taxi drivers and longtime residents of people who enter the crossing during peak scramble times and simply disappear. They're last seen at the edge of the intersection, then vanish into the crowd, never reaching the other side. Are these real? Are they psychological phenomena? Are they metaphorical? Japan's tradition of urban legends, stories that exist in a space between fact and fiction, where the truth is deliberately ambiguous, leaves these questions intentionally unanswered. That ambiguity is part of the cultural fabric. It keeps the city mysterious. But whether or not you encounter anything supernatural at Shibuya Crossing, you will encounter something very real. The profound experience of being part of something larger than yourself. Section 6. Your place in the flow. If you're planning to experience Shibuya Crossing yourself, timing matters. And I don't just mean timing in terms of when you want to see the crowds. Here's what local photographers and visitors have discovered. Early morning, AM to 9 AM. The crossing is quieter, foot traffic is lighter, and the soft natural light is ideal for photography. You'll get clearer shots without feeling completely overwhelmed by the crowd. Midday, 11 AM to 2 PM, high energy, bright conditions, but also harsh lighting and decent crowd density. Good if you want to feel the full energy without peak level chaos. Golden hour, PM to 6 PM. This is when professional photographers descend on the area. The setting sun casts warm, soft light across the crossing. The colors in the sky transition from blue to orange to purple. Combined with the artificial lights of surrounding buildings beginning to glow, the visual contrast is extraordinary. Many people consider this the optimal time. Evenings, PM to 10 PM, full neon glow. Complete darkness in the sky, vibrant artificial lighting. The visual atmosphere is pure urban fantasy. However, crowds are back to peak levels, and the sensory experience is intense. Beyond timing, consider your vantage point. The street-level experience is iconic. You feel the mass of humanity, the sense of being swept up in something vast. But for photography, elevated positions are superior. Starbucks overlooking the crossing offers seating, though it's expensive and usually crowded. Nearby buildings have observation decks. Some photographers position themselves in adjacent buildings or use drones for aerial perspectives. Here's something important. When you cross Shibuya, don't cross as a tourist gawking. Cross as a participant. Make genuine eye contact in the way Japanese people do. A quick glance that acknowledges the other person's existence. Notice the rhythm of the crowd. Adjust your pace based on the density around you. Listen to the soundscape. Feel the collective intention. Move with purpose, but without aggression. Let the crowd's momentum guide you, but maintain your own path. It's an exercise in what the Japanese call, a kind of trust in the collective system to support you. You might find, as many visitors do, that once you stop trying to fight against the flow, or analyze it academically, and instead surrender to it, the experience becomes meditative. The apparent chaos dissolves, and you become aware of the intricate, almost musical choreography happening around you. If you're bringing a camera, composition, the crossing is huge. Capture it from multiple perspectives. Wide shots showing the entire intersection, mid-range shots showing the flow pattern, close-ups of individual expressions and details. Movement, use continuous shooting. Mode and fast shutter speeds to freeze individual moments. Alternatively, use longer exposures cut to 2 seconds and subtle. Panning to capture the sense of motion while keeping certain elements sharp. Weather overcast days provide even lighting. Rainy days are particularly photogenic. The wet pavement reflects neon lights dramatically. Equipment sensitivity. This is a high-traffic area, with active street photography happening constantly. Be respectful of people's privacy. Some tourists are enthusiastic about being in your frame, others are not. Ask permission when practical. Perspective, the guardrails. Subway entrances and building ledges all offer unique angles, though standing on guardrails or ledges is risky and sometimes restricted. Section 7. The hidden order revealed. So, is Shibuya Crossing just chaos? No. It's the opposite. It's perhaps one of humanity's most elegant solutions to a complex logistical problem. Not through infrastructure alone, and not through rigid rules, but through culture. It's a place where 3,000 individuals, strangers to each other, move as one. Not because they've been forced to, but because the society they inhabit has internalized a value that the smooth flow of the collective is more important than the assertion of individual momentum. That is profound. The scramble works because of Waya harmony. It works because of a cultural understanding, passed down through generations, that in shared spaces we move with intention, with awareness, with respect. It works because Japanese society has chosen order without oppression, efficiency without authoritarianism. And perhaps there's something more, something that local legends hint at. The sense that beneath this modern urban spectacle, there's something ancient, a rhythm that transcends the rational, a synchronicity that goes beyond what can be explained by traffic, engineering, or cultural conditioning. Whether that something is literal or metaphorical, whether it's actual ghosts or the ghost of centuries of tradition, is perhaps less important than the feeling you get standing in the center of that scramble, surrounded by thousands of strangers, all moving together in perfect harmony. Shibuya Crossing isn't just a tourist attraction or a logistical marvel. It's a mirror of Japanese society, a reflection of values, of history, of the perpetual tension between individuality and collective good. It's a place where you can observe human behavior in its purest form, stripped of pretense, operating on instinct and culture. For visitors, standing in the middle of that crossing, feeling yourself become part of a vast human orchestra can be a transformative experience. It reminds you that you're not separate from the collective. You're part of it. That order doesn't require coercion. That thousands of strangers can move in synchrony not because they've been programmed, but because they understand something about shared existence that our fractured, individualistic societies often forget. Section 8, Epilogue. So the next time you see a video of Shibuya Crossing, and your immediate reaction is, that looks like chaos, think again. Look deeper. Watch how people move. Notice the patterns. Feel the rhythm. Because what you're witnessing isn't chaos at all. It's art. It's culture. It's thousands of years of Japanese civilization condensed into a single crossing, played out thousands of times every day in perfect, invisible, almost magical synchronicity. If you ever find yourself in Tokyo, standing in the middle of Shibuya Crossing, surrounded by 3,000 strangers, feeling the collective pulse of the city, I hope you'll remember this video. I hope you'll take a moment to appreciate, not the chaos, but the order hidden within it. And if you do spot anything unusual, anything that doesn't quite fit the pattern, let us know. Because the mysteries of Shibuya Crossing, whether they're mysteries of urban design, cultural psychology, or something more indefinable, are still being written every single day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next intersection. Until then, keep crossing.